Moscow from no Joko Bloto.
Sorry, that was really bad.
Every so often they do like a one syllable one where they'll be like, ho.
Oh.
Oh my god, what if there was a Judoon that just sounds like Nesta? It's like, oh. Oh. That's what the Judoon on Barry Island sounds like.
That's funny. A good time to today's episode.
Exactly. How are you, my darling?
I'm fine. I'm all right. We're recording on a Sunday for once, which is shocking. The sun has been out. It's been a beautiful day. I've been out in it and just lapping it up. How have you been?
It's been lovely. I've been good. It's been a busy day. Tomorrow, as of time recording, is the day I go to New York. And I'm very excited, but it's meant a busy day today. I was visiting the fam. So driving up from theirs, which took like 2.5 hours this morning. And then we've just piled it on today. We agreed we were doing a big flat clean, which is great. Then we knew we were doing this. Then I've got to finish packing for New York. So it's been a busy day, but I have really enjoyed having the sun today. Yes. It's been a really, really lovely day.
It's kind of healed me a bit, I think. I'm getting used to it now, though. Like, there was a point not that long ago, like 2 weeks ago, that I was actually checking the weather forecast for the week ahead to find out which day had sun, so that I could plan to be outdoors for that. And now we've had it 2 days in a row, and I'm like, any minute now I can see sun outside and not in it. I feel a bit bad. I'm like, oh shit, I'm wasting it.
I know. I'm not gonna lie. In the middle of all my busyness, I had like a 20-minute nap today, and I was like, I'm wasting the sun, but got to prioritize your mental health, darling.
Oh no, it's gone dark while we've been chatting. I'm like, no,
come back. The stars are going out.
Oh,
I took some really good photos of planets and stuff last night.
Oh yeah.
Where my family live, it's like way in the countryside, and I'm not going to dox them, don't worry. And my dad has this telescope, so we were looking up at the stars, and we were just like, you know, in London, the sky's brown. The sky's brown in London. So we were looking up at the stars, and we were like, oh my goodness, you can see everything. And he took his telescope out, and you have to kind of like, this is so boring, but you have to like acclimatize it. You can't just bring it out because it'll fog up in the cold. So you have to like put it out a few hours before you want to, and like let it cool with the air. And I was looking at the moon, I was looking at Mars, I saw Saturn, I was looking at Jupiter and its moons. It was lovely. I felt very like space exploration.
I didn't know you had to acclimatize a telescope.
Well, it would just get all foggy, and then like it would be, but I don't even think just on the lens. I think like inside would like be a different temperature.
Oh wow. My sister briefly had a telescope, and there was a like telescope shop in Dorking where we lived, and so we'd go down to the telescope shop every so often, just look at the telescopes. And I guess at some point someone got a telescope for Christmas, and it was quite like a low end telescope. And I'm wondering, did we not acclimatize our telescope correctly? Because it was always, I think it was just out of focus. I think there was always like, yeah, that could be something, but we were not very good at our star gazing.
It's not something I'm particularly good. What I didn't realize, which is so weird, and again, this is a really boring chat for everyone listening, but I found interesting, is just how quickly everything moves in orbit. So you'll find like a planet, and you'll look at it and you'll be like, great, there it is. And you literally, in the lens, will watch it go from one end of the lens to the other, and within about 10 seconds, it's gone.
It's so weird, isn't it? If you actually deep the stars, like if you actually like stop and stare at the moon or anything, and you like actually realize it's real, like, do you know what I mean? I find it always like has just freaked me out a bit, like pleasantly freaks me out, but I'm just always like, oh my God.
I know.
Like, that's a real star burning like millions of years ago.
I know. I find, so some people, like my brother was like, oh, it makes me feel so small. And it doesn't necessarily make me feel small. It makes me realize how big everything is. Like, I don't feel smaller in myself, but I realize that things are bigger than I think. And like, Nick has this really cool app I need to download where if you like hold your camera up to the sky, it will tell you what star is what planet is what. And even like that we were watching like satellites fly through the sky, and you can click it on the app and it'll tell you like what satellite it is, what year it went up, where it's going and stuff. And that was really cool. But yeah, space is just it's bloody massive.
Space is bloody crazy, isn't it? It's mad.
And if there's one person who knows about space being bloody massive, it's our friend Doctor.
Our friend Doctor Who. Dr.Who. And what was that line from the EastEnders special?
You ain't my doctor. Yes, I am. Oh my God, that's this episode.
You ain't my doctor. Yes, I am. No, there was the other line with the Mitchells last week. It was like, oh, there's only one doctor around here. Who was that?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember his name, but it's the doctor who was in it in the first ever episode. They're like, yeah, the doctor who lives down at number so-and-so. Doctor. And then Roman's like, Doctor Who?
Doctor Who walks off.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say, because he said, how are you? I had such a weird dream last night. I had a really vivid dream right before I woke up, and it was about weeping angels.
Love.
And oh my God, and I'm not going to be able to remember it properly, and it's going to be really boring. You know that scene in Family Guy where Lois is like describing a dream? And she's like, and then I was in the grocery store, but it wasn't a grocery store. It was da-da-da. I was in a tunnel somewhere though, and there was this like freaky boy who was like, had just crawled out of a window in this tunnel I was in, and he was speaking to two other people, and they were like, "You're right, you lost." And he was like, "The angels are going to consume me soon." And he was,
oh God.
God knows why I was dreaming this. And then I could see he was like turning grey. And I was like, oh my God, he's a weeping angel, gotta run. So I like ran down this corridor to, it's like underground tunnels or something, turn around a corner. I know there's an exit this way. And I look and it's like an angel like crawling around the corner.
Oh.
And I've like, it's frozen. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't go that way. And I can see there's two of them. So I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't go that way. What could I do? Turn around and I can see the shadow of the boy is like changing into an angel shape on the other wall.
That's freaky.
What am I going to do? And then I woke up. And like when you describe a scary dream back, like that's not even that scary. Like, okay.
No, but in the
like
moment,
when you're in the dream and you're like, it's real, it's terrifying. And I have a really specific thing. And that's whenever I wake up from a scary nightmare, my legs are itchy, like every single time. Itchy legs. Like I wake up and I'm like, oof, and I have to like actually like fan my legs. Only happens with a scary dream. Never happens. I'm not sweaty. I just have itchy legs. And in my head, right, the reason for this is clear as day. I was like, because you know, like in your sleep, your brain sends your body signals to not move. Like you paralyze yourself while you sleep. And then I was like, so it must be that in the dream I'm like running. And so my confused brain signals are going like fight or flight, and they are telling me to like stay still. And I bet that's confusing the nerves in my legs.
Probably.
I was looking up and I was like, oh, everyone must get this like itchy legs from nightmares. Nope, this is not a thing.
We've spoken about this before. And you were like, you know when you get itchy legs? And I was like, no.
no, not a thing. And then I was like looking this up and I was like, I think this is new science. Because I was like, I'm certain this is a real thing now. And I think there's like there's a plausible study here, because apparently if you have restless leg syndrome, which I don't have, this is so off topic for Wholala, then apparently people like with restless leg syndrome have more disrupted sleep and are more able to remember their dreams.
See, that's what I want to be able to do more, is remember my dreams. Because for me, I have such weirdly specific dreams down to like certain minutiae and details. Like I remember once I had a dream that I went to go watch The Incredibles 2 before The Incredibles 2 had come out. That's the kind of person I am. And like I dreamt that I was sat in the cinema and watched The Incredibles 2, and I made up this entire plot, and I can't remember any of it now, obviously, but I dreamt this entire quite plausible plot for The Incredibles 2, but in my dream, I wasn't in The Incredibles. I was in the cinema watching it on a screen. And like I just woke up and I was like, I can't believe I've just made up a plot for The Incredibles 2. But also I wasn't even like interested enough to make a plot where I'm in The Incredibles. I'm just sat watching it. Like
just perceiving The Incredibles.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like the minutiae. I really do need to keep a dream journal, because I feel like I dream every night. Last night I dreamt I hooked up with Zac Efron, and I'm not even particularly attracted to Zac Efron, so that was a rogue one.
But it happened.
And I just need to start writing these down, because like there must be some kind of correlation between what's going on in life. I think that was just because I saw a meme about how his brother was on The Traitors recently, and now everyone online is like falling in love with a different Efron. And I saw a meme about it not long before I fell asleep. But like dreams. Hey, listen, dreams are weird.
You know how when you wake up from a dream in the night and you're like, that was crazy, I need to write that down, that felt so real. And then you're like, no, it's fine. Like I'll remember it in the morning, because I remember it so clearly. You wake up in the morning, do you remember it?
Absolutely
nope,
not.
Never.
No. I used to write on my notes app sometimes odd words that would link to a dream when I'd like had it. Not in like a dream journal format, but just like odd words. And then I'd look at it the next morning and I'd be like, this makes no sense. This makes zero sense.
I'd have that as well.
Yeah.
It'd be like word search, Titanic, boat, chase. And I'd be like, right. It doesn't help.
No. I remember once I had this dream about a hedgehog dying, and I woke up crying. I woke up with tears on my face. Yeah.
I've never woke up crying before.
That was the only time.
The only time.
That was the only time, I think.
Just the hedgehog.
Yeah.
God.
Anyway.
What are we doing? What is this podcast?
Not about dreams. Not about dreams. We've hit
Hello?
a lot. Hey, listen. If there's one thing about us, we love to laugh. We've hit a lot of topics.
I love to laugh.
But the topic we are trying to stick to today is the episode of Wholala we are doing, which is Fugitive of the Judoon.
Fugitive of the Judoon. How do we arrive at this one? I think I was like, I've got a bit of an itch for a Jodie era one, maybe one that we can defend, but this isn't one that really needs defending. I think this is quite popular.
Yeah, no. You said you wanted to do a Jodie era one and you're in the mood to kind of defend something. And then I was saying, well, why it's not necessarily a defensive episode because people do like this one, but why don't we do Fugitive of the Judoon? Because we just come off the back of doing an episode of each Doctor. And much as we have touched on the Fugitive Doctor and Power of the Doctor, this is actually, I was thinking about this, the only episode she's actually in, because in Flux, she pops up as like a memory of the Doctor through like a reflection. Like she's remembering an adventure she was on. And then when she's in Power of the Doctor, it's actually like a hologram, I think, isn't it? To trick the Master. And so this is, to my knowledge and my memory, the only episode that she's actually in. And again, when she's in the end of series 12, it's within the Doctor's memory while she's hooked up into that thing in Gallifrey. So this is the only time we actually physically see her. And I'd be
physically interact.
Exactly. And I'd be curious. I know that her Big Finish has come out recently, and any listeners who listen to that, please tell me what you thought of it. I really do want to listen to it myself. No spoilers. But yeah, I was saying, why don't we jump into a Fugitive Doctor story?
And then we jumped. It was nice afternoon watching, to be honest. It was good fun.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. A little bit of context for it. So Fugitive the Judoon came out on the 26th of January 2020. I just find it so funny to think back that this series came out right before COVID. Like I think the finale was February or March 2020. Like right as things were ramping up, this was airing. Aired on the 26th of January 2020, written by Chris Chibnall and Vinay Patel. The director was Needham Manzoor. Viewership was 5.57 million. It has an IMDb score of 7.5 out of 10, which I think, because people review bomb Jodie's era, I think that's a very good score.
Given the review bombing, yes. Yeah. 100%.
Now, for anyone who hasn't seen this episode, jump on iPro. It's actually a really, really, really fun watch. Lots of throwbacks to previous eras of New Who and really, really good sort of pushing forward storytelling for Jodie in the Chibnall era. But if you want a quick recap the story, here you go.
In Gloucester 2020, Ruth Clayton is celebrating her 44th birthday while promoting her guided tours. Her husband, Lee, fetches her cake while she tries to pull locals and tourists into her excursions. A barrister, Alan, has feelings for Ruth and tells her that she shouldn't trust Lee, showing her a dossier that he made of him, though she dismisses it. At the same time, a Judoon ship hovers above the Earth and targets Gloucester.
The 13th Doctor and her companions fly in her TARDIS, discussing her distant behaviour as she searches for the Spy Master. A Judoon alert interrupts them, and they head to Gloucester, where the Judoon soldiers scan civilians, causing mass panic. Ruth and Lee become central to the mystery when the Judoon reveal that they're searching for a fugitive. Lee, acting suspiciously, urges Ruth to run away from the platoon, but not before the Doctor intervenes. Delaying the Judoon, she realises that Lee isn't all that he seems as he hides in an alien box, and Ruth starts to experience strange visions tied to a lighthouse.
Graham is unexpectedly teleported to a spaceship where he meets Captain Jack Harkness, who mistakes him for the Doctor. Jack tries to bring the Doctor on board, but this time teleports Ryan and Yaz, having his signals confused by the Judoon. Jack warns them of a looming danger. Beware the lone Cyberman. The Doctor and Ruth flee the Judoon, leaving Lee, who realises he's been caught and is executed by Commander Gat.
At Gloucester Cathedral, Ruth receives a cryptic text from Lee, triggering hidden memories. When the Judoon corner them, Ruth displays extraordinary combat skills and dishonours them, pulling the horn off the Judoon general. She and the Doctor travel to the lighthouse from her memories, where Ruth smashes a hidden fire alarm, unleashing energy that restores her true identity. She is also the Doctor. They uncover her buried TARDIS, leaving the 13th Doctor baffled.
Captured by the Judoon's transmat beam, the two Doctors confront Gat. The 13th Doctor realises that Gat and the Fugitive Doctor must be in her past, and Gat refuses to believe her that Gallifrey is destroyed. She then fires a rigged weapon which backfires and disintegrates her. The Fugitive Doctor tells the Judoon that there is no law in interstellar space, and they leave while warning the Judoon to stay away. The 13th Doctor reunites with her friends, processes Jack's warning, and prepares for the next crisis as an alarm sounds across the Earth.
Ooh, I really do like, I mean, I'll get into the whole episode, but I really like how in Jodie's era, especially in this series, the tail end of every episode really leads into the next one. It very much feels like one flowing narrative. I thought that was really, really good. There's still a few episodes of Jodie's era I haven't watched, and the listeners know this. And the reason I'm holding back on watching them in majority is because I want to react to them in real time on Wholala. But last year, I watched a lot more of this series. The only one that I haven't seen as Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. So I watched the episode after this and like all of the ones going up to Ascension of the Cybermen, which I had already seen a couple times. And it's really, really good. I can never remember the name of the next one, but it's one where there's 3 different sort of crises happening in 3 different countries, and they kind of have to split themselves across the earth. And it turns out to be that whole thing with the microplastics.
Oh, yeah.
That's the next one. So I just really like them tailing one episode into the other without it being like it's not like a duff. It's just like, oh, right, let's go do this, or right, let's go see Mary Shelley or whatever. Now, before we jump into our own thoughts, we've reached out to you on our socials to see what you guys thought of the episode, and here is what some of you had to say. Over on Twitter, Beth Axford, friend of the pod, said, changed my life forever. Jack said, it's memorable for the right reasons. It expands on ideas presented in the show and canon decades earlier. Jo Martin is a fantastic doctor, and I'm delighted that she's been given more stories through Big Finish. Jodie shines brightly here, but you already knew that. Bad Wolf Archive says one of the most shocking, exciting episodes to watch live actually made me sit up and scream at my TV on multiple occasions. It's just a shame that when I watch it now, the main emotion I feel is sadness at the lack of screen time Jo Martin ended up getting. Our Queen deserved better. Someone says, username. They're at TW. They said, for any fans of Jo's portrayal of the Doctor in the episode, I'd strongly recommend listening to her recent 3-part audio adventure. The writing is top-notch, and Jo's performance as a voice actor is great. I really do want to listen. I'm really, really excited. Drew said, well, I'm sad about how Jo Martin was used after this episode. The fugitive she was, absolutely perfect, and her storyline was superb, really top tier. The Barrowman bit was neither here nor there for me, but gave the fans something to do, I suppose. Easily top-range episode, this one. Selena said, I just remember being I was absolutely blown away. They were absolutely blown away by everything Jo Martin did. And Doc Jean said, a great episode. Loved the reveal of the Fugitive Doctor. I did not see that coming. And Captain Jack, are you freaking kidding me? This was an amazing episode.
Yes. Okay, over to Blue Sky then. Hamish Steele said, one of the most you had to be there episodes of all time. My heart was pounding, and Jo was so instantly the Doctor in ways some of the main incarnation didn't even manage. Ethan said, the first word that came to mind was gag central, so I guess that kind of covers it. I love it. And Laura said, it's a great episode with a bunch of twists and it's a fun time. However, as great as it was for Jack to be back, I feel like his return overshadowed the Fugitive Doctor's entrance and she deserved her own standalone ep to be introduced.
We also had a couple retweets on Twitter as well, I've just seen. Jenny said, a good episode, but the shocks can trick you into thinking it was better than it was. Jo Martin with perfect casting, it's a shame she only got cameos hereafter. And Martin said, this is going to be controversial, but I'm going to say it. The Ruth mystery has the same issue as the mystery of Ruby's parents. It's compelling until you get a resolution that doesn't make sense. Ooh, controversial on the pod.
Ooh. This is a really critical thing I think about mysteries generally. Severance. I'm going to bring back to Severance. I will be evangelical about Severance till the end of my days because it's just stellar. We're on the penultimate episode right now of it coming out live. No spoilers for anyone, of course.
No.
But season 1 was so extraordinary to me that I really think it's just immaculate TV, like one of the best shows of the decade, hands down, 100%,
yep.
No questions. But there was almost like there's so much mystery around the show. There's such a central mystery, so many unknowns that is like slowly unfolding.
Yeah,
that you kind of wonder, like, this could be going in so many different ways. Is it ever going to be satisfying? And season 2, it kind of starts to really expand. You have some of your questions answered, but with that, somehow it adds more layers and more tragedy and more intrigue to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And just much more depth to it the more that it unravels. And I'm like astounded by that, like how much like richness it keeps adding to the show the more it unravels. So I think, and I still don't really know where it's going to go. Like they're not going to wrap it all up in season 2. Season 3, it's going to, I'm sure, come to a conclusion in the end, but you still don't, there's a lot of really central questions you really don't know the answer to that you really can't guess.
I know.
So it's just, it can be done very well, is all I'm saying, with mysteries.
Yeah, it can be done really well and it can also be done really, really poorly. And in the current era of the show, I'm really curious to see where it's going to go because I know that this 2 seasons was kind of written as a 2-season package. So I've always said I feel like we're halfway through a season rather than finishing a season and going into a new one. And like Anita Jobson says, you will find out who Mrs. Flood is, for example, by the end of the next season. So I definitely think we will get some wrap up, but I'm curious to see if it can stick the landing.
Yeah. So maybe beat by beat through this one. I think we hit a few of the same points in our notes this week for the first few. But first of all, I think we both wanted to talk about the title sequence, which I think we do every time we bring up the Jodie era. We go like, yes, the title sequence eats.
Yeah, it's so good. As soon as it started, it's just so it's so slept on by so many fans, and like it's got such a real, just like from Sagan's theme, it's got a real like guttural like new like earthy beat to it, but also just the visuals of like that weird like ink drop. It felt like a real modern day render of what they were going for with Hartnell's theme, and like again, I don't mean to rip in on what's happening now. The beats of the music add up with the text. Like Doctor Who comes on when it goes Doctor Who, and it's just my brain. I love it.
It's a little brain itch, isn't it? I really, really like it as well. It's very like biblically accurate Angel of a Time Vortex, that it's like imperceivable. It's like always evolving and shifting, and it looks dangerous as well. Like this is not a time vortex you can cling onto the outside of the TARDIS for. You will die. It will shred you.
You will die.
And it's scary as well in that sense. And I think as well, when you see the TARDIS moving through it, sometimes it makes it feel even more kind of like you're kind of like traveling through the storm, even more so than the Matt Smith era, which ironically has a storm happening in it. So, it just feels like a very alive like time vortex. But I love it. The theme is much more like almost feels like it's drawing back on the classic theme a bit more than some of the newer ones are. Like,
but I know that was also Sagan's like MO with his music. He wanted it to kind of harken back to that era of Doctor Who music. And
yeah. It's very cool. Early into the episode, we see Ruth, and she's checking her watch on her birthday, and she's waiting for it to turn 7. I wondered, why does it show 7? I know it's the time. I know it's like literally the time. Okay. But I wondered, like, is there a meaning? Did anyone ever extrapolate a meaning from this? Maybe not.
I don't know. For a second, I was like, is this episode 7? But it's not. I'm pretty sure this is episode 5. I don't know. I made note that I said the opening shot about being time and her waiting. I think that was really clever. And it kind of harkens back to, because like eventually when she opens the fire escape to release the Doctor, it harkens back to me about the fob watch, which was very much like 10 and the Master.
I love that you said fire escape and not fire alarm.
Oh, fire alarm! You know,
being physically kept.
She climbs up the fire escape, and then she's like, "Wow!" As she comes up there. The fire
opens
alarm
the double doors.
Opens the double doors, and she's
down on the handle.
Whoop, it's the time vortex. No, I don't know if there's a meaning to the actual time other than it just being like the start of the day. I just love the bit she basically makes buttered toast, and she's like, "Proper," and I'm like,
"Proper."
It's just buttered toast. I don't think it's warranted a catchphrase.
To be fair, the way you make buttered toast proper, I really like Lurpak. That's great. But second of all, Nigella does this. She'll like salt it. Like she'll do like butter on toast and then she'll salt it. Mwah, chef's kiss.
Proper.
Like she's right. Taste, it is proper. It was a bit like, I mean, as an introduction to the character, I was like, this is not how people speak. Like that's a weird thing to do. Like she doesn't say it like under her breath, like proper.
No, she says it like a catchphrase.
Announces it to the room as if it is like the start of, how she's in those Tesco ads for like real food stories as well. It was like a continuation of that.
Yeah, I see that. It's a funny one to like kick off the episode with, but it's not, I liked the link with the watch. I really like, going from the opening of this episode, the idea of, I mean, obviously we don't find this out till later, but you see it a lot in this scene, like a companion having to stay and look after the Doctor, because it's kind of well known that like Lee is her companion. There's that line where it says faithful companion before Gat shoots him, and it just harkened back to like Martha and Ten in Human Nature. Like he's dedicating his life, however long it takes, to making sure that she stays hidden and that she's safe. And I really like that. I thought that was really good.
God, you're right. I did actually think about the fact Lee is her companion. I think of him as her protector in this episode, but I don't think about it from the perspective that Lee is a companion who has traveled with the Doctor and now, I guess, also worked with, because now we know that Fugitive Doctor worked for, what they called?
Yeah,
the agency.
They did. The Division. In the Flux.
The Division, yeah.
In the Flux, there's that episode. You know the episode where we see 13 in the blue coat and she's like remembering a memory of being in the Division. And what you're seeing is 13, Yaz, Carvanista, and Vinda. But who they actually are, Dan's Carvanista. One of them, I think Vinda, is Lee. Like they're playing who they were in that memory.
Right.
So Lee worked for Division, and that's why he knew Gat. But that's why when she shoots him, she says faithful companion, because he's a companion to the Doctor.
Kind of weird then that Lee, unless he really did have romantic feelings for the Doctor, as part of the like cover up as part of the becoming human, developed a romantic relationship with their human double to just kind of add layers to the cover, right?
The Doctor in Human Nature was the one that made up the story, and he was like saying to Martha, like, I don't have time to give you a backstory. I will give you I'll give myself enough residual memory that I won't push you away, but like I don't have the time to make a backstory for you. So I think the Doctor would have been the one that set the backstory. So maybe there was a romantic relationship between the Doctor and Lee pre-memory wipe, and they set it to be like that because they also, it's implied that Lee isn't human, because that's what he's like, ugh, humans. But then when the Judoon scan him, he registers as human. So he will have had the same, meta-crisis thing that the Doctor had, but not had the memory wipe.
Gosh, there's a lot of layers to it when you really deep it. I didn't think about any of this stuff.
Yeah,
but yeah.
A lot of layers.
Poor Lee. Lee's very obviously suspicious. The thing is, in this story for me, Lee is already a suspicious character. We know there's something different about him because, he starts pulling all these faces as soon as, she leaves the room. She's like, I wouldn't forget your birthday. Stares. And it's like, okay, cool. He's suspicious. He knows something we don't know. But they really double it down in a way that I don't think is necessary in the story. So we're going to the cafe, and there's this character called Alan, who calls himself All Is Alan, who is a complete nutcase and infatuated with, I keep wanting to call her Joe. I don't mean Joe. I mean
Ruth.
He was infatuated with Ruth.
He's obsessed with Ruth.
Obsessed with Ruth. And has compiled a dossier on Lee and is like, I don't trust Lee. Here's everything that's wrong with him. He's suspicious. And it's like, right, okay, we got it. Also, Ruth is so uninterested in this. Like, if my partner, right, if you were like, look, here's a whole dossier on what I think is wrong with him, and it's a thick book. If nothing else, I'm taking it with me to read. I'm not just gonna be like, all right, love, see you later. You know what I mean? I'd be like,
sure.
I'm gonna have a look. And
I know.
I thought that was interesting. And then later on, he makes her a cake for her birthday. He gives it to Lee,
God.
and it's You Can Do Better cake. And I thought, you know what? That's actually unprofessional. I'm sorry.
It's super unprofessional. I would not be running that if I was doing a bakery. He's a weirdo. I just think his nickname, All Is Alan. It's just
All Is Alan.
This is a little bit of my issue with this kind of story. Is it feel like they can't commit to making it one thing, so they make it silly in ways that, like you said, she's kind of dismissive him in a way that, not you again, silly Alan, come on, let's go. In a way that like someone else would be like, actually, that's really strange behaviour, Alan. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. This is a bit weird. I don't know why he's so obsessed with Ruth as well. She just comes into the coffee shop, I guess, but I mean, it's the lovely Joe Martin, so who can blame him? Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. The thing with the cake, it very much felt like Hagrid's cake, the Happy Birthday Harry cake. but like, it's just, they write his character to be almost like a caricature of who that person would really be. Yeah. So that was a little bit jarring for me. I'm also curious, this isn't necessarily to do with Lee, but why Gloucester? Why did they choose Gloucester?
Why Gloucester? It was part of Global Chibnall. He was like, we're going everywhere and anywhere. And you know where we've never been?
And Gloucester!
And Gloucester.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is an example of like where in the episode they just need to like dial up the right stuff and dial down a few other things. Like when we're like getting to know Ruth, we're like, what kind of person is she? And they're like, okay, we want to establish she's part of the community. She's a really sweet, happy woman. And so they have a kind of walking to work, jaunty little tune. And I'll be honest with you, I'll be really, really honest with you. At some points in the episode, the soundtrack's fantastic. Like during the Judoon, the drum beats are fantastic. The tension during the lighthouse scenes, fantastic. The soundtrack and the non-tense moments, the atmospheric kind of synth, and the kind of jaunty tune while she's like walking to work, not it for me. Sorry, that was a bit too harsh. Was a bit much, but not it for me.
No, that's fair.
Personally. And her like walking along like high five to the like kids on the street and like rustling the dog's head, and then she's like, morning everyone. I was like, all right, we're egging the point a bit. And then when she goes into the cafe, she could have just had a guy there who's a bit like, that Lee, she's like, he's making the coffee. He's like, I don't trust him, like there's something off by him. But him going like, I've made a dossier. You're right. If you're going to go with that level of humor, you need the response to almost like match it at like, you know what, Alan, this is weird. You need to like, this is weird, Alan. But in the way that it's
this is like, actually very abnormal behaviour.
But actually they're matching that with like, all right, Alan, whatever you say, see you later. I was just like, why are we doing that? Yeah. So
I don't know.
Not a huge thing. I'm nitpicking.
No, I know. But then I like her reaction to when she sees the Judoon. So to segue to the Judoon,
okay.
I really love the CGI in this era is so good, and I've always said that about Jodie's era. And that panning shot of Earth to the Judoon ship like coming in, it's such a departure from like the Judoon ships we we had in series 3. It's so good. I really love the animation of it. I just love the design of it. And I think Segan's music that he did, talking about the music for the Judoon, is really fun. I've never really paid it that much attention before, but like it's really like doof doof doof, like storming, stamping, dun 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 dun, which I felt really fit it well. I was very grateful they did the redesign of the Judoon, because the Judoon, it's almost like the equivalent of like TARDIS.png, like the same Judoon head they used for the Smith and Jones episode. They used it in the finale series 4. They used it in Sarah Jane Adventures. Like that probably would have been looking a bit ropey by this point. So to have a completely new sculpt with like the little hair, I really love the mohawk. And I do like the throwbacks that they do to series 3. So the Doctor says, "It's a platoon of Judoon near the moon." And then later she's like, "That platoon of Judoon near that lagoon." And then Yaz is like, "It's more like a canal." I just think it's a really funny reference to the Doctor trying to make that joke work. And it's clearly like not the moon. And I really like that they brought the Judoon back for it. I really do agree with the critique of Series 11 that they needed at least some reference to previous Doctor Who monsters and aliens. And I think the Judoon were a really good one for this because they are a nice callback to that era. And then obviously we'll talk about Jack later. There's quite a few callbacks to previous eras of New Who in this. But they do help propel the story forwards to what they're actually talking about, which is Division and the Fugitive Doctor and the Timeless Child. And I think they're a really good alien to include in this.
Yeah, I really like the redesign as well. And I like the consistency with the fact that the Judoon are quite thick. They're quite painful, like rule followers, in as much as they permit them to do kind of bad things. Like they're like quite happy like executing innocent people, or like they get a light shove and then they're like, "Right, that's it, you assaulted me, death." And then later on they're like, "You are breaking Earth Rule 12. Is that right, Yaz?" Like, "Yep, Rule 12. And they're like, "Oh shit, Rule 12. So it's like they're idiots and they never really question, you know, the Doctor's identity in this either. So yeah, I really liked having them back in this. I agree, visuals look fantastic, I think, for the monster redesign. More broadly, I think the CGI in this whole era is fantastic. I maintain, like, I really think the CG in this whole era of Doctor Who looks lovely.
Yeah.
The Judoon ships look really good. There's a shot they reuse it quite a lot of times, but it's a really good shot. Like the Judoon ship looks really detailed. It looks quite realistic. The vortex shot we get at one point during this as well, TARDIS going through the vortex, looks great. Jack's ship looks great. The one criticism I have, like visually for this era, I'd say the lens flaring is pretty extreme. They could dial that back a little bit. And the color grade, I think, especially when they're filming in like pretty mundane, you know, like normal Earth scenes, where in season 1, that was like part of its charm, was like kind of almost like really grayish looking, ordinary, overcast council estates. Like it kind of just added into that aesthetic.
Yeah.
They've almost tried to make it look a bit more visually interesting here by like almost like slightly oversaturating it. And there's parts where the result of that is people start to look a bit jaundiced because they've kind of whacked up the yellows and whacked up the greens and stuff to try and make it look a bit more interesting. But that's my minor critique, is that sometimes visually I feel it looks halfway between a premium ITV detective drama and also like a university prospectus.
You
in that I think some of it looks
wild for jaundice. I'm still on
jaundice.
that.
But like there's moments in this where like the extras, I don't know how to explain this, but like they look too like extras. Like they look too polished, too prepared. They look like they've been styled. This is how I say it. They look like a uni prospectus.
Do you know what I always find with characters like this is, I mean, often for modern day characters, so a little bit of inside tea, normally when it's extras like that, they will ask them to dress themselves, they'll come in and they'll approve it. But sometimes if they want them to have a certain style, they'll buy the clothes. But normally they'll go to like a Primark or something and buy them all. And the clothes have never been worn before, so everything's super clean.
Yes.
No one's wearing anything old. No one's anything ripped. No one's wearing anything like misfitting. It's just like clean, fresh off the rack Primark clothes, nice, shiny, new.
Yeah, in your size new.
In your size new. And that is what I can see in that. It didn't necessarily bother me that much, but I do see that the uni prospectus thing, especially, very much. It felt like I was like, was this co-funded by like the tourism board of Gloucester? Like, is that why we're like focusing so much on that?
Yeah. Like there was someone in the background in one scene, and they're doing their like, you know, panic the Judoon here moment, and there's someone running around and they're on their own. It was like looked like young adult woman running around, and she didn't have a bag, and for some reason that bothered me. I was like, you'd have a bag, where are you going? Like, why don't you have, she didn't have a jacket or a bag. I was like, I don't believe you're out. Why are you out without a bag? Where are you going? Just small thing.
You can't live without it being in reality, my love. You can't.
Where's your
You
bag?
can't. It's fantasy. There's aliens, there's spaceships, there's monsters, and people have pockets that are bigger on the inside than the outside.
Right.
But no, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Talking about the Doctor, like that. I mean, I don't want to necessarily harken too much on like Jodie and the fam, because I feel like every time I go back to them, we sit on them. I just really liked in this episode that we get a little bit of darkness with Jodie's Doctor. I feel like it's a critique often of her Doctor that she's too like, hello there, fam, da, 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 da. My dog's locked in fucking Gloucester. Like, there's too much random silly stuff. And I really like here that they lean into that she isn't over Gallifrey. Like, she's not over the Master. She's trying to track down the Master. Like, she's just seen her home destroyed, and like she knows there is one other Time Lord out there, whether or not it's her enemy, and she wants to find him. And I like Yaz asking the Doctor where she goes when she leaves them to explore. Like, is that where you go? What are you doing? And it kind of like pushing her for an answer. And then we jump back into like the fun, silly 13 with the Judoon, like you said, like the whole Article 12 thing. But I like we get like a slither of that in here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I agree with you. The only part of that I didn't like as much is where the Doctor is searching for the Spy Master and is trying to find out, oh, you know, if I can't follow them to that dimension, but if the Master's escaped, then I can track the Master. And then she turns and the rest of the fam are like sat on the steps, as they always are sat in their like perfect formation of three. You know, they're always like in a row.
Yeah.
And they're like, Doctor, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, how long have you been there? And they're like, 20 minutes. I'm like, have you just been staring at her for 20 minutes while she potters around? Like you've all just been sat in silence for 20 minutes. But yes, I agree with you. I think Jodie plays it really well in this episode.
Yeah. And then, like I said, when we get to the funny bits, I really like the bit where Lee says to her, you're in charge, right? And she's like, it's a very flat team structure. Like, I like that, like fun kind of back and forth. I really like, and I find that fun. Leaning into the division element, I really like, we were talking about the mystery earlier. I don't want to get too much into future now. We'll get into Fugitive, but just talking about 13 with it, I really like what, I mean, bless her, she really goes through it in this episode. She goes through it, but I really like the moment where, because, you know, she realizes there's the Fugitive Doctor, and she's like, no, you're not me. I know my life. I know you've never been me. Like, something's wrong with you. And then when she's talking to Gat, and Gat is saying that she's from Gallifrey, and she knows that Gallifrey has been destroyed, so she realizes, well, you must be my past. Like, I think Jodie really well shows that like unraveling of the Doctor, and her being like, well, like you must be from my past, but I know my past, and and that kind of like spiraling at the end, to then come out of that and then have the team be like, oh, we've just seen Captain Jack. Oh, and Captain Jack's told us about this lone side man. Like, she cannot get a break in this episode. She's just having thing after thing after thing after thing. Like, bless her, it is. Yeah, she did not need that reveal.
She comes back from that interaction like feeling really shell shocked. Like, you would not believe. You guys are not gonna believe the damn heaven. She I think plays it really well, and also I really like that there's like a genuine frostiness between the Fugitive Doctor and 13. I don't think there's any other like multi-Doctor crossover I can think of, but there's a lot where they're like kind of ribbing each other, and they're a bit sarky and a bit like, oh, this, you know, they're a bit like, oh, the short one, the stupid one, the old one, you know, they all sort of jab at each other and overcompensating. But with these two, it's like a real like, I don't trust you, and I don't like you, and I don't agree with what you're doing. Like, at the end, when the Fugitive Doctor drops off 13, she's like, I'd like to get out now. And then earlier on, when she's kind of like, you know, like, you knew that gun would backfire, and she's like, I told her not to fire it. And it's like, but you knew it would. You knew she would do that. You knew it would kill her. There's like that real genuine friction, that kind of like, if you are me, I don't like who you are.
Yeah.
That's very plausible. I really like it.
I like there's confrontation between the two of them, and like, neither of them believe the other, so neither of them trust the other. Like, the little things, obviously, and again, the whole thing with the mystery about whether it's good or not, that's by the by, but I like us not necessarily knowing where she's from, but being able to have little markers. So clearly, like, it's widely quote unquote known that she's pre-Hartnell, but I like, you know, she doesn't recognize the sonic screwdriver, and 13 comments on that. She's like, well, you don't know what this is. She's like, yeah, I don't need it. And I like how sarky the Fugitive Doctor is, like you're saying. And this episode kind of becomes such an integral puzzle piece in a way that I don't think I'd really thought about that much before, between the Timeless Child, Division, and the Flux. Like, this kind of was the catalyst for all three of those things. I don't think particularly any of it had really been lent on until this. I know, like, the Timeless Child, you can put it all the way back to like the Morbius episode, the Fourth Doctor, but like, this was the first episode, I feel like, where the Chibnall era at least played their cards of like, no, this is where we're going with this, you know?
Yeah. And is that because they're debating it? They're like, well, we have the same brain, but how do you have this TARDIS? And if Gat is here, and Gat must be from the past, and you know Gat, then you two must be in my past, and you're physically here, and this is a TARDIS. So, you know, like the facts are against me.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's that genuine kind of like, I can't quite work this out. Neither of us can work this out, but also I'm not sure either of us want to work this out because this is quite seismic.
I know.
I'll go into as well, like a bit more discussion, I think, at the end about not just like what we now know about where this Doctor is meant to sit in the timeline, but also like what people were saying at the time with their theories, which is very interesting, I managed to find as well. And people were getting very excited about it.
Yeah. Well, look, before we jump too much into Fugitive, I wanted to talk about Jack and Jack's return, because we kind of see him more before we get to know the Fugitive. So I really wanted to know who he stole the ship from, because he kept saying like, oh, they want it back, like they're going to have it. And like, it's very Jack that he stole it from someone, but it looks so TARDIS-y. Like, I was sure when I first saw it on original air that it was some kind of TARDIS. Like, you have the hexagonal shapes on the floor, you have the like central console. It's clear that it's like a dressed space. They didn't build this as a set. They like brought set pieces into a dress space. But yeah, with Jack's return, I remember at the time it was a real gag. I think they must have announced it or something. I can't remember, but I remember like at this era in Jodie, I watched Spyfall Part 1 and 2 when it came out, and then I didn't watch the few after that. But then I came back for this one, I think because I knew the Judoon would come back, and I think because I knew that Jack was going to be in it. I really like that they brought back, at this point, I almost want to say like a classic New Who companion. I did have that weird, almost like Rose Tyler, Billie Piper thing of like, it's almost like he can't quite remember how he did it. Like there's a little bit of like, there's a little bit of like, it doesn't feel as natural as it used to be. It doesn't, he doesn't slip into it in the same way that he did. But I really like they brought it on. I really like, he acts with the fam in the same way that he did act with the Doctor, like kind of cheeky. And I really like that. I do think that it's one too many things in this episode. Like basically this episode should have been a two-parter. Like I always think in my head, the bit which goes, let's take this from the top. Hello, I'm the Doctor. That should have been the cliffhanger. And I can imagine the next episode starting with the whole, I'm a time traveler from across space. That's my target. Like it really should, I think it would have fit a lot better if it was two-part, you had the space to breathe. But with every other element in this episode, it did feel a little too much like one additional thing.
Yeah, I get that as well. I think, it could have been easily split, I think, and given the other half a bit more time. At the same time, the pacing doesn't feel horrible. And it's kind of like oddly nice when we get that reveal and then we get another story. It feels like we get a story with Ruth and a story with the Fugitive Doctor in the same story, and it helps us, I think.
But I don't think it's enough Fugitive Doctor. Like, you get a whole story with Ruth and then you get 5-10 minutes of Fugitive.
And it's like, now get out. It's almost like how is this Doctor not more interested? Like, why don't you want to solve this question about your future? But I guess you're not supposed to. Almost it should be like the Fugitive Doctor should be more interested in her future and Jodie should be trying to save her from it.
I don't know. But anyway. I'm glad we got it. I always forget there's nanogenes in this episode. The nanogenes are what's trying to like bring Jack somewhere else, which isn't really what nanogenes are, but I like that there's a callback to them.
Yeah. Barrowman was definitely a gag at the time. The thing that they'd always like box themselves in with was that like Captain Jack doesn't age. So like in Torchwood, we see him go through the centuries and doesn't age, doesn't change. And then he says this thing about like, you never know, I found a grey. And so he's starting to slowly change. So sure, maybe for Captain Jack, it's been hundreds of years. But it was like, oh, yeah, like I can see like you're getting a little older now, which is fine, but like within this character who's meant to like remain pretty fixed. I mean, I guess one day becomes the face of Bo.
But fixed until he's a talking head.
He acted it, I think, pretty well. Like, I mean, given that he was like on this static set with this like this row of 3 actors kind of just staring at him while he delivers his performance, and he's like, whoa, hey, whoa, I gotta see that. Whoa, nice. Oh my God, the ship. And he's having to like throw himself around again. Static set. I think he brings a lot of energy to that, which I, admire for like given he's, as I say, static set and trying to be like, whoa, this spaceship's crazy. It does feel like a lot of it is AI generated horny Harkness lines. Like a lot of like, like his first thing is like, did you miss me? Like big smooch with the Doctor. And then he's going, oh, I love the Greys. Yeah. There was, I know, just a lot of the horniness came straight back. It was almost like also Chibnall trying to also remember how to write Captain Jack. But no, I like him in this episode. I was trying to work out, because there's this bit where he's talking about
how the Cybermen are an empire of evil, they're in ruin, da 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 da. And then he says, to defeat them, the Alliance sent this thing back through time across space. And I'm pretty sure what he's talking about is the alliance of humans against Cyberman. But I did take a minute to think if they were talking about the Pandorica Alliance, like there was like a separate alliance who like thought that the Cybermen were a big enough threat that they kind of needed to be taken out. But I think it is just as simple as talking about the human alliance that are trying to fight the Cybermen.
I think it's a new alliance, but yeah, I also like that idea. I had a few other little points. One, I won't stick on this too long because I've talked about Gallifrey a lot, but I really, again, feel like I reminded myself in this one, like, wow, destroying Gallifrey in this era was such a mistake, I think. Mm-hmm. Now that it's been destroyed, brought back, I was like, destroying again? I was like, ugh. It just feels like, you know, every time as well, I skipped after this to...
Gone, Ruby!
Gone! Episode 12. And where it continues with like the Master on Gallifrey and, you know, look at what I've done, look what I've destroyed, Doctor. And I was like, why? Why did you do this? I mean, it's the first question. It's like, Arnie can ask why I did this. And she's like, why did he do this? And I was thinking, why did we do this? But just, I don't know, so much fun potential in that. Like even in introducing Division and Gat, I was like, see, there's so much I want to know about like Time Lord society. And like, we don't need to do it through Division. We can do it through Gallifrey. Like, I don't know, but I think it's a shame they destroyed it again.
One thing I get really bugged by in this is Time Lords are time-traveling beings, and the whole thing with the Time War is that it was time-locked. And they kind of said that as like, almost like throwaway comment, but like, as for us, the audience, to be like, oh, don't question it. Like, if you're going to ask why there aren't Time Lords out and about in town, out about in Gloucester. Out about in town. All around the town and everything. They were saying, oh, the Time War is time locked, don't worry about it. But now that Gallifrey's been destroyed again just by the Master blowing it up, I would get really bugged in this era by them jumping between... So, like, for example, Gat, who is a Time Lord, turns up in present day to deal with the Fugitive Doctor, who is from the Doctor's past. And so we already have a Doctor that is pre-Time War there, the Fugitive Doctor, a Doctor that is post-Gallifrey blowing up, which is Jodie, and a Doctor that is probably somewhere in between. And I'm just like, well, if Time Lords from pre-Time War can just freely hop about and time travel to other places without any sort of consequence, then, like, what was the point? Like, what was the point of trapping them within the Time War? I just think, like, for me as a bugbear, it annoys me when Time Lords can just freely zip about if Gallifrey is currently destroyed in one form or another, especially if these Time Lords that are zipping about are pre-Time War.
Yeah.
Because then why does the Doctor care when they see the Master after so long? Why are they like, I know I'm the only one, I'm the last Time Lord in the whole of the universe, I have to be the last one, if there are Time Lords zipping about that weren't in the time, like, it just kind of, it breaks the canon in a way for me that, again, Doctor has no canon, it doesn't really matter, but like, it bugs me a bit.
Because after this episode, I was looking at Gat. Well, Gat's not there anymore, she died. But if Gat hadn't died, she was on her way back to Gallifrey at the end of the story. So there's a route back for them, but not a route back for 13. Do you know what I mean? Like, that slightly confuses me. And I guess that's maybe where the time lock comes into effect, is that you can't enter Gallifrey if you're beyond its history relative to it. I don't even know what I just said. That wasn't even English.
No,
that wasn't even English.
I've also realised I've worked with both the Fugitive Doctor and Gat, both the actors. I've done shows with both of them.
I want to quickly mention the companions. Graham, Yaz, and Ryan just do not have enough to do. There is, like, this is one of those episodes where I really feel like the TARDIS team feels too packed. And there's so many points in this, like, honestly happens 2 or 3 times. One where they're talking to Jack, one at the end when they're talking to the Doctor about like what's next and we're your family and we've got your back. But they always form up in like a perfect line. They stand in a 3. They are so awkwardly blocked. Like when they're talking to Jack, they should be like getting up close to him, getting in his face, like coming to the controls, being like, no, wait, talk to us. What's going on? Help us understand. But they all like stand in this very like polite row at the back, like they're waiting to be told what to do. Like they queue. They as a 3, like they queue, and they did it in the TARDIS as well. And they do this thing where they like just take turns with the lines as if it's like one brain with 3 mouths, and it's like one person with the same intention as well. Like,
not the 4, 5, 6.
but they don't have different opinions. They all want the same thing. They all say the same opinion, and they all just like reinforce each other in this very like it's almost like they were contracted to have the same word count per episode or something. It's like, yeah, Doc, and us, and me, and that. We're your family. That's right. Your family. That's right. And it's just like, I was like, what are we doing? Why are you like, how are you not cross-talking at all? Like, there's just no point. And I don't know. And again, like in the TARDIS, they all like, they wait patiently over on the seats as if they've been told, like, don't come near the controls. But there's this very awkward way of standing as well, where like, Graham will stand slightly in front of the other two and they'll stand behind him. And I'm like, this isn't a normal way that people would talk to each other. Why is Graham not looking at the people who are speaking? If they'd all stood around the console, you know, looking at one another in a four, like, we're your family, Doctor, with like the glow of the TARDIS console on their faces, like smiling at each other across, like that could have looked so much more visually interesting, to the point that I'm like, were we just trying to like save the number of cameras we needed to use? I just don't know what happened there.
I don't know. It's interesting watching it now, having seen what they do with the later parts of Jodie's era. Going back to what you're talking about, the companions, I am such a stickler for thinking we should have had a full series with Jodie and Yaz, where I really like their back and forth, and like the opener for Flux when they're like, you did this, Doctor, this is your fault. No, it's not me. Da, 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 da. And they're like bickering or whatever.
Yeah,
I really like that. And I don't think you necessarily get that, at least in this episode. I really agree with you in this particular episode. In episodes like the next one where they go to the 3 continents, I think it's great because they split them up and they all have different things to do and they all have different sort of skills. But in an episode like this, you could have, if you wanted, have Jodie drop all but one of them off at the beginning of the episode and then have one of them picked up by Jack, because you could have had one of them meet Jack, have the message and go back to the Doctor. And to be honest, the only message that you got from it was beware the lone sideman and don't give it what it wants. And listen, I'm going to go out on a whim. Come here, dear listener. I'm thinking that if the 13th Doctor met the lone Cyberman without that warning, I don't think, and walk with me here, I don't think she would have given him what he wanted, and I think she might have bewared of him. So I don't necessarily think that warning meant much. So it felt like they kind of just wrote the companions out of it for the sake of the Doctor having this adventure with themselves. And also, I don't think they would have all fit in Ruth's car, if I'm honest. It looked pretty cramped in there. So it did feel in this one they didn't necessarily have them do. I actually do like at the end them all coming back. I completely get what you mean about like them being in a neat row and them having the times, but the line about how, you know, they say to the Doctor they're not just the mates, they're the family, like it leans me into being like, oh, this is very sweet. I'm glad we had them. It is nice. I do wish that at a certain point we had less, and I do think that we should have had a full series. And I guess that could have been Flux in a way, but we got Dan, who I do love as well. But I think we should have had a full series with Yaz and 13.
Yeah. That was just an observation for me. There was a few points where I was like, why are they standing like that? But yes, there are moments when it works. There's moments when it just felt like the whole Jack subplot was just the need to busy them, while there was actually nothing for them to do in the story. Which is a funny position to be in, where it's like the Doctor kind of can pursue their own main plot line without a companion to help. There's no benefit of a companion. It's insane to me that it's only been 5 years since this storyline, like 5 years since The Timeless Child, 5 years since The Fugitive Doctor. It feels like it's been so much longer.
It feels so much longer. It's pretty weird. Like, I feel like so much has happened on Doctor Who in the last couple of years that this was so long ago. And I also feel like, to jump onto The Fugitive Doctor properly, I know we've kind of talked about it throughout the episode, but to kind of jump onto it properly, she, in this episode, wasn't given enough time, which we said about, like, Ruth had a whole episode, and then, like, The Fugitive Doctor only really got 10 minutes. And then, like we were saying earlier, every time you see her after that, it's like a cameo, but, like, as a memory, or as a thought in your head, or as a hologram, or whatever. And it's weird for me to look back at this now and say it's 5 years ago, and to know that we still, at least on TV, don't really have much more information about her. And I think that's what, like, I really like her. I actually really, really enjoyed her in this episode, and I really like the Fugitive Doctor as a concept. I'm not bothered at all by having non-linear doctors, and it's not following the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbering format. Yeah. But I liked her so much that I wanted more, and I got a bit frustrated that we didn't. I think era is now gone, time is now gone, but we could have very easily, had there been interest in it, have had like a 3-part mini-series of the Fugitive Doctor adventures at the same time. And I know I really like from this one. I really like as well the line she says where she says to 13, I don't even know where I'm trusting you. And then 13 goes, I've got one of those faces. And I'm like, bitch, so does she. She has one of those faces.
I think she's also a very believable Doctor. Like the minute she snaps into the Doctor and the costume's revealed, and you're probably a bit confused right now, I did get chills again. I just immediately because Ruth, the character, doesn't feel at all confident enough to be the Doctor, but as soon as she enters the Doctor persona, and especially when she puts on those yellow glasses low on her nose, I was like, that's the Doctor right away. Absolutely made sense, and also a completely unique Doctor.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, well, I mean, when the Doctor's like, I've never been anything like you before, obviously there's subtext to that, but I don't think that any of the Doctors have been like that. She's not doing an 11 or doing a 6 or doing whatever. Like, she very much is a Doctor in her own right. And I think, we get really interesting scenes with her and Ruth while they're trying to figure it out. And the scene in the cathedral, I think it's an interesting choice to place that in a cathedral. Also in that scene, the bit where she rips off the Judoon's horn, I'm like, you're going to sell Judoon ivory on the black market? Like, geez, that was a bit intense, darling. A bit brutal.
Brutal.
But then you have the biological shielding wearing down, similar to how it did in Human Nature. And when you finally do see her, I agree that it is a real gagging moment. Just for the fact that so many people think it is a cliffhanger moment when it's not, is enough to say to me that people think it's a real. It is one of the most important moments, I think, in Doctor Who of the last 10 years. It is one of the most. It's one of the most duff moments in Doctor Who of the last 10 years.
It's one of those big duff moments that really shakes up the lore.
Exactly.
It's something that genuinely, it changes your perspective on the overall story of Who in a really big way.
Yeah.
Yes. There was a lot of really gaggy lines as well in this, in the build up towards that, questioning Ruth in the car, are you sure that's your home? It's such an interesting way of talking about someone's memories. And also great setup for the timeless child. Are you sure that's your home? Back to Gallifrey as well. Are you sure that's your home?
Yeah.
And also I love that bit about my parents are buried on the land outside, and what an unusual thing that is for your parents to be buried on the ground outside a lighthouse. And also the false memory of her parents when it's actually her TARDIS. I just really liked that as well.
Yeah, me too. I didn't like that her TARDIS exterior is a police box, because much as I love her being a pre-Hartnell TARDIS, much as I love her being a pre-Hartnell Doctor, it makes sense why the TARDIS looks like a police box for William Hartnell's first Doctor, landing in that junkyard in the 60s and getting stuck. And then when they come out of the TARDIS next time, they're like, oh, it should have changed. And so I don't like that it is a police box, but I do like the whole plot of it being buried and hidden away. I like that she calls her TARDIS the ship, because the first Doctor calls it the ship. So I think she's believably the Doctor before Hartnell. I hope. What I think I wanted with the Fugitive Doctor is a definitive answer as to what happened to her at the end and how she became the first Doctor. And I think the answer is meant to be A, figure out for yourself. But B, I think it's safe to say the division wiped her memory. They forced her to regenerate. She regenerated into a child, a male child, sent that child to Gallifrey, and it ended up in the orphanage. And that's where you kind of make your Clara and listen with the holding of the foot and stuff like that. And that becomes William Hartnell's Doctor. Steals the TARDIS, runs away. I'm happy enough in my mind to be that's what happened. That's good. I just would have liked to have been told it. But maybe I just like being held.
I absolutely think that's what happened. I think the only reason that there's really this contention about which Doctor is because of the TARDIS shape. I had to dig back to this and look at what the theories were at the time. So there's a kind of post-episode discussion thread on Reddit. It's really interesting. People were saying Ruth is a clone Doctor who was created to fight in the Time War. When the Master discovered that he's also a clone, he torched the place. So they basically were arguing essentially there's another Doctor out in the world and there's another Master out in the world. And they're just a version who was split off at another point and not the original. And then they were saying how interesting if it turns out that the Jodie's Doctor we're following, ever since, the Ninth Doctor even, is not the original Doctor. We've always been following a copy. So that was one timeline, which is interesting. Then they said it also makes sense because then if Missy is the Master's clone, she did get redeemed and then she did die. But the reason that the Sasha Master is still here and still bad is because he's the original. So that was one way of thinking about it, which was very funny. And then the The other comment was, I really hope that Ruth is not an incarnation of our Doctor. There's no room for her to be an incarnation before Jodie. This is someone else's opinion. Otherwise, Clara would have met her in the Doctor's time stream, because she even bumped into the War Doctor, so there's no wiggle room to say that he might have missed out on an incarnation, and the 11th Doctor could not exist if Ruth is indeed an incarnation of the Doctor. Now, I disagree with this, because I think also if the Time Lords are like masters of regeneration, if Tecteun has like mastered the process and has managed to also like give that gift to the entire species, or indeed like at least all the Time Lords, then of course they'd know how to like cap not just your memories to your past regenerations, but also just like almost make them like have never existed to you, like completely remove your access to them. Yeah. And the other theory that a lot of people were pushing was this like season 6B theory, which is that because we never saw, up until recently anyway, we never saw the second Doctor regenerate into the third, people were like, well, that's where she fits. Like, it's a version of the Doctor that's been forgotten. It's actually like she is the real third Doctor, but it kind of still contradicts the established law of the show. They've now contradicted that too, because they've shown the regeneration scene.
I was very much in the camp that I thought she was an in-between 2 and 3 Doctor, that Division sort of part of the punishment of the second Doctor was they were forced to regenerate and then be sent on missions from Division. I think they could have put her in the middle of those two, and it fit really well, but I like her as a pre-Hartnell either way.
Yeah. People said then, pre-Hartnell works fine if you just park this police box problem. A really simple explanation for the police box is that the TARDIS likes that shape. So the TARDIS can see all of time. The TARDIS can see its own future. It doesn't matter if it's supposed to be that shape yet, because it will be that shape one day and it likes it. So essentially, it becomes that shape at some point during the pre-Hartnell era. The TARDIS gets put into the junkyard, puts back into the repair shop, gets reset, becomes the default shape again. And then one day, you know, way in the future, the Hartnell Doctor comes along, almost picks the wrong TARDIS. One of Clara's splinters appears and says, nah, take that one. Much more fun. Navigation system's knackered. And then that TARDIS goes on to pick its new form again as soon as they land in the 1960s Shoreditch. So you can kind of fix it. I don't think it's that bad. It's one of those things that fans get like really upset about, that I've just never found like
I don't care that much.
Bothersome. But I also think like then if there was ever a retcon of like, oh, actually, by the way, series 1 to 4 never happened canonically. Like, if there was ever like a really big rewrite of like, you can enjoy those stories, but those are now an alternate timeline, I'd probably be a bit like, oh, I can see how undoing my interpretation of the show that I hold dear would upset me and would feel sacrilegious.
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, no, that's my timeline. Like, don't mess with that. I do get it, but I also think, come on, guys. Like, we can't treat any part of Doctor Who lore as sacred.
No, I know. To be honest, I'd never actually. There's another thing that bugs me. I love you're like, we can never treat anything as sacred. It's all fine. I'm like, you just said something else that annoyed me. No, the fact that like she has her TARDIS and it's her TARDIS and always be her TARDIS, and then when they take her away, they just brought him back to Gallifrey. And again, there's an explanation of like, she's always meant to find the TARDIS, and you saw Clara point her towards that one. But yeah, I don't know. I think a mystery works best when all the pieces fall together to where they were planned to go. And I think that with the Fugitive Doctor, it was I obviously don't know the behind the scenes of it, but it felt a bit like the conclusion they came to was the reveal of it being a Doctor before they had thought about how they were going to do that or why they were going to do that. And it felt like they, rather than finding out the end point and working backwards from there, they found the middle point and then they had to kind of like build around that. That's how it felt a little bit to me.
I agree. It felt like almost like the first reference to the Timeless Child in season 1 was so open-ended. They hadn't even really decided what that meant. I don't even know if I really believe that really referred to the idea of like the Doctor being the Timeless Child at the very start. I think that could have meant a lot of things. So they were leaving like, well, we're going to build a concept around that, throw it in for now. I agree as well. Like, I think you need to know where you're going, and it always felt like that storyline was kind of incomplete. Like, whether that was COVID and the Flux series that kind of condensed it, and then straight onto the Centenary episode and the handover to Bad Wolf. I don't know what really happened there, because we got a bit of exploration of it in Flux. We got a bit of a storyline which kind of culminated in the point being, I'm not defined by my past, and I don't need to know everything I've ever done, because what matters is who I am now. Like, that's kind of where it ended with its point. But the fact that you can't confidently say like this is where she fits in, and now the story kind of makes sense. And it's also like there's that other question is like, does it enrich the story? Is the Doctor's story better because the Doctor was someone else before they were Hartnell? Like, I don't know. Is it better? Is it richer? Is it more tragic?
That's up for the fans to decide, my darling. Oh, wait, that's us. Yes.
Oh, it's us. Yeah, because I think the Timeless Child adds something. I really do. Like, I think the idea that the Doctor is not of our universe, the idea that the Doctor is not even a Time Lord, the Doctor is so unique in the universe and has never really found their place, and will never really know who they're from, and they've never really belonged in Time Lord society. They've never really belonged on Earth either. They are just like they are an other. They are like another being entirely that will never really understand, and they'll never really understand what they are and what they're meant to do and where they're from. Like I like that a lot. I don't have an issue with like us not having a very fixed idea of, oh, I was born on Gallifrey and these are my parents and this is this and this is that. Like I don't think we ever want the true story.
Yeah, true.
Sam, I thought I might ask you to play a little game with me this week.
Oh, I'd love to play a little game.
Do you want to play a little game?
I'd love to play a game. What's the game?
Of camp.
Or
damp!
Oh, I get to do the scream this week. That's fun.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? It feels good. It feels cathartic.
Nice.
All ears Alan. Camp or damp?
There is something camp about All Is Alan. He's such a like almost borderline creepy character that I don't know that I can say camp. But I'd say borderline camp for All Is Alan.
Ruth, I'm telling you, I hear things. They don't call me All Is Alan for nothing. He works at Bathrooms for You, for God's sake. Camp or damp?
Bathrooms for You is very camp, and I also love that is what grounds him to being like a normal person. Like he's no one special. He works at Bathrooms for You. Like everyone who works at Benson's for Beds is watching this. Like, excuse me.
Excuse me. Lee saying, I just need to talk to them, okay? And Ruth saying, but they're space rhinos, Lee. What are you going to chat to them about?
What are you going to chat to the space rhinos about? I feel like that would have been more camp if he'd have had like a witty response, being like, I don't know how horny they are, but or like some obviously wouldn't have said that on the BBC, but something like that. I don't know, or even just like a.
You wanted them to say how horny they are.
I don't know the weather.
Yeah.
What they think about Gloucester. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's camp though. It's silly in camp.
It's silly in camp. All right. Well, you know what? Like this era isn't known for, I think, its camp moments, but there's definitely a few in there. There's a few in there.
There's definitely some in there. What it is known for is some fun facts, and I've got plenty of those for you, my darling.
I'll go on.
Now, the first one, I normally source these online, but the first one is actually a me thing, and of course it is because it's about action figures. Fugitive of the Judoon is the episode from Jodie's era that features the most unique action figures. We get 13 Yaz. We do also have a Dan and a Ryan figure, just not in their costumes. The Fugitive Doctor, the Fugitive Doctor's TARDIS, the Judoon Captain, and a Judoon Trooper with the special gun that it hasn't here. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 figures, 7, 8 if you count Dan and Ryan in their different costumes, all from this episode. And I just think that's a fun little fact.
I love it. I love that.
I love it. Diving on to the facts that I actually sourced, that might be more interesting. The Judoon leader's name, Paul Condon, is actually a tribute to a BBC Online producer called Paul Condon, who died in 2019 and was a huge fan of Doctor Who. So that was why their name was Paul Condon.
Oh, Paul Condon. Oh, that's nice.
Sweet little reference. The Fugitive Doctor's TARDIS exterior and console room were actually reused from Adventure in Space and Time. It was adapted for the exterior, but the rest of the console room was new.
You know what? They did a fantastic job because it looked pretty new. And I also think like reusing bits like that, genius, because it needed to look like it was rooted in the classic TARDIS. I think it was just a signal to us that it's back in the Doctor's timeline.
Exactly. This is quite funny. So in order to keep filming a secret, and that it was secret that John Barrowman was going to be in this episode, he faked a house renovation in Cardiff, which gave him an excuse to publicly say, oh, this is why I'm in Cardiff at the moment. But it later went on so far that in order to keep up the ruse, he actually ended up renovating a house in Cardiff. So
I heard this. I had heard this. It's a good fact.
And that's all the fun facts I've got for you today.
That's lovely. Other fun fact, lockdown started 2 months after this episode aired. Oh,
what a time.
What a bloody time. We were in that weird period where, like, do you remember?
It's only in Italy. It's in China.
Only, exactly. It was like, oh, yes, the people who went skiing have got it, but it's all right. It's not here.
It's not here. Well, I actually went to Thailand in February. I think February 28th, I flew to Thailand. And when we flew, we were like, we'll just bring some wipes and wipe down our seat on the plane. It'll be fine. And then we were the last commercial flight out of Phuket. And we were very worried. We were getting a bit scared.
You should be nervous. I was in Disneyland Paris 2 weeks before lockdown as well, and they just had hand sanitizer galore. Let me tell you that. I was there, and every time we were like on our phones, like in the queues, everything was like, close the schools. I was like, this is getting pretty bad. Anyway, lockdown was 2 weeks later. I went back from Disneyland Paris, a rammed theme park, into a central London office for a further week when it was like, I think we should be locking down. And then we had like 2 days of like voluntary, like, we have decided as a company we need to like stop working in the office. And then it was locked down.
And then you went. I had a really weird time. I mean, not dive into this too much, but I was working in a cafe. When I came back from Thailand, they said, oh, you have to have a 2-week quarantine. Because I got back about a week before lockdown, and they were like, you need to not come to work for 2 weeks, we'll give you sick pay, but you're not allowed in. And then when they announced lockdown, they were saying that they were donating a load of the food from the restaurant to like local shelters and stuff, but if you wanted to come and get anything, you could, like, because we were obviously locking down. So I turned up, and I remember the boss was there, and they saw me taking some items for myself and helping bring items to this food shelter, and they were like, you can't be here, you can't be here. And I was like, we're locking down, Verity, what do you think we're doing? Like, what is this gonna do?
None of us can be here, Verity.
Exactly. Oh my god, so
brilliant.
silly.
What a time.
Well, thank you for listening to our lockdown stories and our thoughts on Fugitive Doctor. Bit of a chunky one today. If you enjoyed this episode, please reach out to us on all of our social media and let us know. We are at Wholala Pod everywhere. That is Twitter or X, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also rewatch old episodes of podcasts on our YouTube channel at Wholala Pod. And we want to know what you want us next. And we want to know what you want to hear from us next. I don't think we actually have a plan for next week, so I'm excited to hear what the listeners want to listen to.
Could be anything, couldn't it?
A whole world of adventure right here on your doorstep.
A whole new world. Okie doke. Well, yes, also, we'd appreciate if you rated us 5 stars. It really helps the pod. You can follow to get notifications whenever we drop a new episode. You can buy us a coffee, KO-FI, coffee. Search for Wholala. And you can share the podcast with a friend who you think will enjoy it or just really likes hearing about the Judoon.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Goodbye.